Thanks for sticking around. Good afternoon. And we are about to start this enterprise round. We've talked about so many things. We've talked about consumer. We've talked about the development world. But we are going to now talk about enterprise. And what I love about enterprise, especially as it comes to Vision Pro, is that we're going to hear from some people who are also working on private apps, working on things that maybe we don't know about or things that we don't get to see or hear about. So this is a very special panel. This is a special time to get to know what they're doing. And so we're going to kick it off today with Zach Duff, who is the CEO of JigSpace. He's going to give his talk. And then we're going to hear from Susanne Haspinger from Holo-Light, and Wright, who is here from Campfire. So, yeah, come on up, Zach.
Give me a second, folks. I'll just set up. How's the day going so far? Enjoying it? Sick. And how many people here, show of hands, have been to AWE before? Quite a few. Regulars. And how's the format of the workshop, like the day before? I've found it pretty cool. I think it's good. Let's see.
I have a question. Can I ask a question while you get set up real quick?
Yes.
How many people are developing enterprise apps here in the room?
Good question.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So that's actually a lot. That's a good showing. Thank you.
Nice. So I am plugged in. And we're up. Okay. Let's see how this goes. So, I'm Zach. Thanks for the intro. I wanted to do something a little bit different here, and please come on this ride with me. I want to do what I like to call the classic XR 101 talk. I don't know, like I've been to a few AWEs now, and I always see one of these, and I wanted to try my hand at it. So you've seen this kind of presentation, and the next 10 odd slides are going to be incredibly predictable. There's a pithy opener. From the printing press to personal computers to smartphones, humanity's knowledge, we could probably do a bit better than that. From cave walls to the printing press, personal computers to smartphones, humanity's knowledge has been recorded and shared in 2D. But we don't live in a flat world. This slide is supposed to make you think a bit. Now, there's going to be the very reductive VR history slide, a collage of cool headsets. I can talk here about hype cycles and origins, and as you can see, I've included some fun things and some business things, which is kind of on point. And then I'll have a shockingly incomplete list of pioneers that really just shows that I know my shit and I know how to use Wikipedia. And you'd also see this guy. To be fair, very, very effective visualization tool. And I have made more than a few of my own. Momentum is building. And I can show here the adoption curves, which are actually important. And we are in that phase right now where we're kind of standing on the precipice of this new computing paradigm. And up close, it looks like a fair while of kind of working towards it. But really, we're right at the edge here. The time is now, so on and so forth. Leading us, finally, to why we're here. Apple Vision Pro has ushered in the era of spatial computing. And it will revolutionise how we communicate at home, at school, and in the workplace. Cool. But the truth is, all of this stuff doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. The history, the tech, this presentation is not what matters. What really matters is all of you. It's what you do, it's the work you do, it's your job, it's the things that you have to do every day. You need to build, train, sell, market, educate, engage, inspire. You need to communicate effectively. That's why all of this tech exists. It is here to make you able to communicate better than ever before. And that's your job. My job is to make that easy. Easy to create, easy to share, and accessible on every device, especially the one you have with you. Today, that is the device in your pocket, but very soon it'll be why we're all here. It'll be wearable computing. So we've got a couple of key things, 3 key things that I want to kind of talk about with the development we went through. But if you don't know about JigSpace, we're on Vision Pro. We're like on day 1, it has been, like the response has been phenomenal. It's 8,000 hours spent viewing jigs. That's really exciting for the team. This is what Jig looks like. Thank you. Now, there's no easy segue from that slide, so I'm just going to go to it. These are the kind of companies that use JigSpace. They all make things that are large, complex, technical, hard to explain. That's the common thread through everyone that uses Jig. And this is what it does for them. 75% reduction in sales cycle, quadrupling product line revenue, 90% reduction in transport costs, 3x engagement and knowledge retention for technical training. And this is what we try to do for our users. Make the hard to explain, hard to forget. Now, what did we learn? There are 3 major things that we learnt. Firstly, it's vitally important to make something for the end user right now, not for the entire organisation. There is a limited number of devices out there. There's not going to be 200 Vision Pros in an organisation. So you need to get those champions, the ones with the device, that might have bought them themselves or convinced someone to put a credit card down. You've got to really deliver something for them because that's where the rubber hits the road. you have to lean into what makes this platform amazing. 2D windows with images, videos, text, all that stuff, doesn't cut it. It is not a return on investment to have this incredible device and to then just have flat surfaces that you're looking at. And I think the Adam's talk earlier was an awesome example of that. It was like reinventing, like reinventing television. It was awesome. And finally, thinking about shareability. Firstly, it's digital. Not everyone has a Vision Pro. In fact, most people when they're sitting around, I saw them out the front there, people like trying Vision Pro. That's quite typical. So how do you think about the people who can't see what you see but are there and physically present? Is it easy for them to access the same kind of content? It can be as simple as recommending AirPlay to a nearby screen or integrating spatial personas and SharePlay, etc. But that is like one of the key concerns. And physically as well, because there's all the people who want to try it. And as much as Apple have tried, everyone shares this device. And they go to trade shows and they try it. It is shared around a lot. How do you make that easier to navigate? For us, that meant having a recently viewed section in their Jig library rather than having to go in and reload every time. They just had it there cached, ready to go. Kiosk mode for trade shows. We even suggested sanitary covers for the headset and like wands for them to disinfect and all that stuff, like for some of our customers, because they kept asking, how can we use this at trade shows? So those are all the kind of considerations that we had to think about as we put it out there and started to realise just how people wanted to use it. Now that is a very, very short list of all the things that we learned. But hopefully over the next 45 minutes we can tease that out with the group, and I'm sure there's a lot of crossover. But thank you.
Thank you, Zach. Now we have Susanne Haspinger from Holo-Light.
Thank you very much for the introduction. I'm just now praying that the slides are working because unfortunately, due to jet lag, I didn't manage to check in today morning, so the worst case, this now will be a bit improvised.
The slides will come up shortly, I'm sure. So I'm looking
It's all for the excitement.
It's all full of excitement, exactly.
It's star building.
Well, have we ever been to a tech demo where everything works perfectly?
No.
Not, right? Not everything, not yet. So it shouldn't be the same here. It's more like real life. It's more believable.
But to start with, maybe I can also already tell you probably the most telling story about AVP at Holo-Light, or basically how I gave my head of product nearly a heart attack. A couple of weeks ago, AWE contacted me, hey, you want to give some insights about what you're doing with AVP, and of course, I'm co-founder, I take every chance to tell the world what we are doing. I said yes. And maybe my communication internally was not the best at that day. Already had a couple of Red Bulls into this, day was long. And I walked to my head of product and I was like, Gabe, I have a talk coming up at AWE and I will go talk about how our platform is integrated in AVP. And he just looked at me and was just like, you know that we don't have it yet. And he is used to working with us founders, so he knows we throw stuff at him, there are ideas upcoming, so he has his history with us, so he was just completely shocked and was just like, sorry, I want to talk about what we learned from it and what's the progress, what we did so far. I was like, okay, good. Don't do this again on a Monday evening with me, please. And there we are. So, as mentioned, I'm co-founder of Holo-Light, and we from Holo-Light, we have a streaming platform. There are all different kind of applications and all different kind of devices out there. And working with enterprise customers, it's always the same issues, no matter which devices you have. You want to switch between the devices, you have huge data, you have secure data, which you probably don't want to have on the devices or you can't get on the devices. And that's usually where we come in. We have the streaming platform either on cloud or on an on-prem server within our customer's infrastructure, where all the applications are stored and rendered, and only the pixel stream of it goes to the mobile devices. This is already used by several ISV partners like Tactile or Frontline.io, who are also on the show with us in the next days. And this way, we have a global platform for Enterprise XR. With this, we basically support currently most of the common devices in enterprises. HoloLens, Quest, Magic Leap. We also have an iOS client, and coming soon, also the Magic Leap. And goal is, instead of looking the way it does on the left image, which everybody of us knows when reducing data, we want to have the right one. We want to have the real data looking like real things. Like we've heard today already, we want the AAA graphics. Just wait for the gentleman to make a picture before jumping to the next slide. Please. And when Apple Vision Pro came out, we all knew that's the next device. So we talked to our customers, we tried to evaluate it. We judged it based on quality, comfort, the integrability, the simplicity, and of course also the safety. But to be honest, the most challenging part of it was to get it to Germany through customs. I think my colleague Alexandra had around 40 hours calling with customs, because just because Apple is releasing a new device doesn't mean German custom knows what it is. So it took us a while, but finally we managed to get it, and even the biggest critics in our company loved it, our developers. I think everybody in here knows the typically hardcore developers, and just waving an Apple device in their face usually makes them hide somewhere far, far away from you. And we gave the device simply to our devs and said, test it. 3 hours later, they came in and just like, yeah, it's good. Which really means something. I literally scared one of them away with an iPhone once. And we already have our streaming platform on prototype integrated in Apple Vision Pro. We have one application which we developed ourselves on this on this platform, which is a CAD working space. And these are the first screenshots out of Apple Vision Pro. Unfortunately, due to its prototype stage of our platform for Apple Vision Pro, we don't have a video yet, but I can show you how it's supposed to look like once it's done. Unfortunately, it's for Magic Leap, but yeah. Basically, you can import the data, use all the different things, place it like we all used to, and you can see this kind of data would never run locally on the devices itself. Also, of course, with all the different features, but I will skip this because, yeah. What we've learned so far with Apple Vision Pro for that, as we are streaming, for the app itself, nothing really changes. Everything is still on the server. But the UI changes, of course. The switching between AR and VR has its challenges where you need to rethink your app environment. And unfortunately, the limited access to the camera of the device itself limits us in the usage of some of the features like object tracking or additional libraries we can use. But as we already had the client for iOS tablets, it was pretty straightforward to get to the first prototype, and within the next 1 or 2 releases, AVP will also be fully integrated within our devices. And that's it for my side.
Happy Monday. I think we're the last. Are we the last session of?
We're the last panel, but there's still more speakers. Stick around. Nicole Lazaro is speaking.
So we're not the last thing before everybody in
No,
alcohol?
no.
Okay.
Between no, there's more.
out of curiosity, how many people first time AWE because of Vision Pro?
Wow! Look around.
Welcome to the party, my friends. How many of you more than 5 years? All right. Anybody that's 10? Right on. All right, so I'm a little bit of an augmented reality old timer. I hate to say that. I think this is 16 years in AR, VR land for me. I got started building developer tools for many of you. So if you've been building applications in the past and you used something called Vuforia, that was my baby and many other people who worked on that project at Qualcomm. See, we have a fan or two. Yeah, it's kind of interesting as I think about this. You know, Vuforia was used for a great variety of use cases: consumer, enterprise, stuff in your hand, stuff on your head. But I got to tell you, all the use cases that we're really talking about, even today, compared to 10 or 15 years ago, haven't changed all that much. There's still a big promise that's out there that's largely been unrealized. So anyway, I spent a number of years building developer tools, and then also in 2015 at Qualcomm, we sold the business to PTC. So I found myself running a division of a CAD company sitting right at the intersection of AR, VR technology and a lot of what people were doing in the industrial world. And the sum total of that experience led me to one capability that sort of everybody wanted and couldn't really been done. And many of you have probably seen this capability in the past. If you saw any of the early HoloLens marketing material or Magic Leap marketing material, you'd see these screenshots and videos of people all standing around a table and there'd be content in the middle of it. Zach, I'm surprised this wasn't in your video because there's so many slide decks. And we see the movies everywhere, and we called it holographic collaboration. Now we call it spatial collaboration. But my God, it is this very basic capability of, can we get 3D off of that computer screen and get it into real space so we can get around it, whether we're in one room or we're in places all over the globe. And my God, if we could do that, we could create so much efficiency in all kinds of business processes and be able to explain things that are incredibly hard to explain and remember. But my God, if you wanted to actually do this, it is incredibly difficult. And for those of you with thoughts about building something like that for your organization, you're in for some challenges. There's a lot of difficulty in building these spatial computing applications. You've got devices that go on your head. You've got devices that go on the desk. You got devices that go on your hand, and then you got to get your 3D data and models into those. And my God, that's a whole nother set of technical gymnastics to try and work with 3D models. And those of you that have experienced this, whether it's with scans or CAD data, know what I'm talking about. And then once you do build these applications for these different devices, you got to get a lot of people to use them. And while many of us who are passionate about XR technology are all too willing to go through all kinds of friction to try a new device or learn a new controller, I'll tell you what, a lot of people that are doing their jobs every day, they just want to get their job done and they want to be able to do it maybe better. They're not willing to go through all that friction. So you've got to make it incredibly easy to use. People have got to be able to use these applications with skill sets they already have today to the extent possible. So our mission with Campfire has been to realize this capability that we call spatial collaboration, to make it really easy to share 3D models, whether it's with people in the same room or locations all over the place. And I think with that, I'm going to play this video, and hopefully it gives an overview of what we're doing. Guys, I saw something that was there. It's now gone. I'm going to press up. Can we go back to the previous video? There's two videos. Video one. No, before this one. This one. It has audio. I feel it.
Spend days or weeks creating
There we
technical
go.
documentation filled with CAD screenshots, images, and text, and your frustrated teams can't understand it. Campfire is here to save you time, travel, and trouble.
That guy's pissed.
Campfire lets you communicate 3D information naturally throughout the entire physical product lifecycle. While 3D can be complicated, communication about it shouldn't be. Create scenes for quick design reviews in minutes, or take your time crafting elaborate interactive presentations for training sessions. You can use more than 40 types of CAD files, scans, and other 3D data without manual optimization or coding. Campfire is flexible and incredibly easy to use. Anyone can join Campfire by just clicking a link. Whether joining from a desktop, mobile device, or headset, you can control your own view and move around freely, or simply follow someone else to see exactly what they're seeing. Campfire offers intuitive tools designed for people to have productive conversations about complex topics naturally. Point with your laser to show others what you're talking about when you're in Campfire together, or leave comments and sketches for them to review in their own time. Campfire also comes with powerful yet simple tools that defy the laws of physics, letting you manipulate digital models in ways that aren't possible in the physical world. You can take something apart by simply grabbing a part and placing it anywhere in space, or explode everything at once to see all parts in front of you. With the slice tool, you can reveal internal structure by simply moving your hand at any angle. Sounds simple? That's because it is, whether you're a CAD user or PowerPoint expert diving into 3D, and whether you're building a better mousetrap, troubleshooting your manufacturing line, or training your workforce. Campfire is here to make your team more productive and brighten your day.
Thank you. You might think of the capability here almost like a mixture of a PowerPoint and Google Docs for 3D. So with Campfire, you can work with 3D models, whether it be CAD or a scan, and cut, copy, and paste 3D models into scenes as easily as you work with pictures and text and slides in PowerPoint. And then we also made this work like most cloud collaboration apps that you're familiar with, and that everything lives in the cloud. I'm not saving any documents locally. And when I share something, I share it with a link. And in Campfire, when you share those links, I click on it, and when I click on it, we are now all in that content together around in Campfire. So we made this experience, as you saw, work on both desktops and also on headsets. And before Vision Pro, we were on Quest devices, and largely Quest 3. And I really wanted to make the point that for those of you that are coming to Spatial for the first time now, I think you're at a great time, because with devices like Quest 3 and Vision Pro, we're kind of in a new era, a new wave of devices with pass-through that realize a lot of use cases that we could not do as well in the past, and get over a lot of ease-of-use challenges that people had with these devices before. And actually, one of the biggest considerations when you start building software for enterprise is how do you make it easy for people that are on the desktop and that are using a headset. And what we've spent a lot of our time doing is making that very easy. So we wanted to make sure that if you had first experienced Campfire maybe on Mac or PC on the desktop, that once you got into a headset, it would be immediately familiar and you would know what to do. And the same thing to make that hold true, whether you're starting on the headset and moving over to the desktop. So you might have noticed in the video, there's a core set of tools we have that'll work on all platforms. And a lot of what we've been working on is how can we make that so easy so that once somebody uses a tool on the desktop, they'll understand how it works in the headset. Now, when it came to Vision Pro, those of you that are looking at Vision Pro, and you might have already been working on other devices, you might ask the question, why? Why is it time for Vision Pro if there's so few of these that are still out there and it's very early? And I'll tell you, I think our experience has been a lot of large enterprise customers have these in their possession today, and they view this as a halo experience for, call it mixed reality or augmented reality, and they very much want to understand what it is and where it's going. We don't see a lot of these today in companies' consideration set for what they will deploy with. But my God, this is the time, I think, to get in there and understand how this platform works, because it's a little different. And I think the biggest thing that's different from where we're coming, like in Quest, for example, is this interaction method, this gauge and pinch interaction method. It is very, very different than controllers. And a lot of our time now has been focused on how can we make best use of this to make it very, very easy to use. So with that, maybe can we show the second video really quick? I'll give you guys a view of what Campfire is looking like on Vision Pro. Can we go back to video number 2? It might take a second, but I appreciate the fact I don't have to push any buttons. This is nice.
If you spend days or weeks creating technical documents...
Here we go. Yeah, this one. And no audio on this one. So this is Campfire and Vision Pro. This is in preview right now. So you see we're launching. You're going to see a user in there and a Quest controller. That's because that user is on a Quest. You'll see a user next to them with their hands, which I'll talk about in a second. And you'll probably see some rectangles floating around in there also, which would represent what we call a flat screen user. So that could be a Mac or PC or even iPad user. Yeah, this is fun. That happens in a lot of meetings. That's the best way to figure out who's right. A little rock, scissors, paper. And then a little jump inside of a scan there. So what I want to call your attention to is hands. And this is something that's so incredibly powerful that we did on Vision Pro. But when you get into Campfire on Vision Pro, you really don't have to learn anything. You can put on that headset. You are now looking at a 3D model in front of you, and whether somebody is giving you training, you are giving training, you are trying to sell a product you're being sold to, you can be immediately productive just by putting your hands in front of you. You, of course, don't see those ghosted avatar hands, but everybody else sees them in front of you, and you're able to interact very, very naturally. So compared to a time where maybe if you were giving somebody VR controllers and saying, hey, sit here, try this, hold this controller, press this button, all that friction completely gone away because this interface has become so simple on Vision Pro. Some of the challenges of bringing it over, like I mentioned, dealing with the new interaction model is one. The other, like any new platform, you got to deal with tools and tooling that are still maturing. We're seeing a lot of that happen on the Unity side. We're Unity-based, but those barriers are gradually falling. So really excited about the potential here. If you're looking to get in and start, like I said, I think it's a great time to do it. Just spend a lot of time thinking about what's different about the platform and making it easy for all users. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jay. So this is why I love AWE. Really, because I am so excited to hear about people who are in the field working with their clients, getting real, everyday, valuable knowledge that they can share with all of us. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions, but then I'm really going to open it up to the audience to ask the questions that I'm sure that you all have. I'm going to start off with perhaps an easy one. Last week, WWDC, we had some new enterprise APIs get announced, and there were things like spatial QR codes, right? So that we can start doing asset management. There were things like additional camera access. What was the one that you were like, thank God, finally it's here? And what is missing? What are the things that would make your lives much easier?
I can go.
Go ahead.
The device management, MDM, was they're making a few advancements there, which is really good because as soon as people want to roll it out, it doesn't really work. That was really good. The other one would be the 3D object tracking. That was one that a lot of our customers ask about, so that's good.
I'll go with camera access. I think those of you that have been in the enterprise space for a while are familiar with one of the more common use cases, which is like a remote assist capability, where I want to look through somebody else's device and deliver them content to walk them through something. That is not possible on Meta devices. That wasn't possible on Vision OS for some very good security reasons. But now, apparently will be on Vision OS in a capacity that's safe with enterprise, and that's something we'll certainly make use of. And I'm sure a lot of folks are going to be really excited about in the enterprise space.
I'll also go with the camera access. As I mentioned, we were limited with some features with the camera access as it was not possible. So now, fingers crossed, everything should work now.
Awesome. So I have a question about this standardization of files and file formats because I think that we can agree that we've been moving towards USDZ or GLTF, and I'm wondering how has that impacted or helped you at all in your business? Do you feel like it's much easier now to explain what the assets are that you need from a client, or how is this helping you and how's shaping the business?
I don't know about anyone else, but assets is the challenge, I reckon, for this next period of XR. There are so many formats. Like you look at each of the videos, I think it was we all talked about how many formats that we could support, because it's just what you have to deal with. I think the standardization around the two GLTF and USDZ is interesting, but there's still, you're going from CAD software to real-time 3D is just a big, it's a big change, and it doesn't quite map as well as you'd hope. I think the approach that really works is streaming. I do think streaming works well. And I think there's a diminishing returns with destructive optimization of assets. So I think there's a lot of work to be done there to make it easy, because right now it kind of feels like mid-90s digital photography, like trying to use digital photos on a computer. That's what it feels like with 3D.
It's a freaking godsend. The world of 3D models and 3D data is a freaking disaster. And those of you that are trying to build applications and you got assets coming from different parts of the organization, someone's got a scan, someone's got SolidWorks, someone's got CATIA. It is a freaking nightmare. So the good news, USD and GLTF are both gaining a ton of steam. It's the best thing that could happen. Nothing's going away overnight. It certainly isn't. So you'll have to deal with those things. And the best thing you can do is, find tools that make translation as easy as possible, or try and export as many things as you can to GLTF and USD and work with those. We have tried to hide all this complexity as much as we could with Campfire. So we have a pipeline in the cloud, and you can throw any 3D files in it, and they'll just show up in Campfire with the way that you would expect, which usually works. But in the world of CAD, there's bad CAD, badly structured CAD that just comes from CAD programs. I can tell you, if you're working for a CAD company, it's just bad, and there's no way around it. But overall, another good reason you're all getting into this space now is the file format mess is much less than it used to be, and it's getting better.
Similar for us. Thanks for the streaming. We also are very, very happy about the development here with the standardization. But right now, our customers use still all the old formats and now the standardized ones. So basically, we have to support all of them now.
So there's no way around it yet.
It's just getting more.
Actually, I'm glad you have the mic, Susanne. I wanted to mention, so I heard you speak recently about being able to show a client. You were showing a prototype in Holo-Light, and your client noticed something. It was either some sort of error, and then they left the meeting, and then they came back a half an hour later. Can you tell us a little bit about this story? Because it saved this company months and building a huge expensive prototype. I mean, I wonder if you could share this with everybody. Not everybody may have heard this story, but I thought it was amazing.
Sure. So it was a machine manufacturer where we visited, and it was a typical sales meeting. We made a demo, and they gave us one of their models because their engineers thought that stuff would never work on our software. We uploaded it, everything ran smoothly, and his boss took up one of the devices and started to walk through the machine. He put his cross-section through it, cut it through it step by step, and at one point, he just froze in the room. And all of us were just like, shit, did the software just crash? What's going on? And he turned around and was just like moving. It was clear something was off, and suddenly he put away the device, ran out of the room. All of us were just like, okay, good. Yeah, good, we have coffee in the meantime. A couple minutes later, he comes back in, and he's just like, yeah, sorry, I had to get out. The machine is already in production, and there's a mistake in there. And he basically ran into the factory hall, stopped his employees there, and changed a small detail, which would have worked in the first step, probably. But in the end, as soon as that machine would have been installed at the customer, it would have broken, and they would have to send the team to repair it. And he could figure that one out. Surprisingly, it was a very easy sell afterwards.
I think that deserves a round of applause.
That's a great story.
Right? So we see the value of being able to reduce massive errors and massive mistakes from actually showing up in the client's hands and averting disaster. I think also saving money, and I was chatting with somebody out in the hallway earlier, and it was like, that's kind of a hard thing to actually put your finger on as sort of a value proposition of all of this technology. Like, we can save money or we can save pain, but we can't really say how much because it's sort of like preventative medicine in many cases when you're showing somebody something virtually, right, before showing it to them physically. And I thought that was also a very good observation. Another question is really about the productivity and the collaboration. So you have you have a group, you have people coming in to observe something together. How well does that work? Is that like also one of the things that you feel like you're still trying to improve upon, or what would make that interaction better with the collaboration?
I'm thinking. Yeah, it's been a pain in the butt. Let me just talk about how it's been in the past a second. I'll tell you how it's changed. But if you were trying to do collaboration, or many of you, if you've tried collaboration like with VR in the past, you might have gone through this dance where you got somebody else on the end of the Zoom call, they're jumping into the application, you're jumping into the application, and you're like, I'm looking at this. What are you looking at? Oh, well, I'm looking at this blue wall, and where are you? Where am I supposed to be? And it's immediately this disorienting thing that's just really, really, really hard to get oriented. And so I think this is one of the things that, one, mixed reality has made a lot better. And two, we've spent a lot of time on Campfire making simple, just by making sure that whenever people are collaborating, they're by default in a circle around something, which happens to be the way we all communicate most naturally. I'd say one of the things that is difficult to do today is if you want to try and get a collaborative experience in one room with different types of devices, like everybody in the same room looking at something, like that use case I talked about at the beginning, that is something we cannot do because we don't have camera access on some of these platforms. So if you do have that in your head, that is something that is sadly not possible today. But boy, that would be great to happen at some point in the future if everybody would sort of play nice and open up their cameras and allow that to happen.
I reckon I think there's we're at the stage where it's all table stakes really with collaboration tools. I think it's like you know that you've got to be able to annotate. You have to be able to do some level of markup and revision and stuff like that. The stuff that you need to do with collaboration and chat and all the things that you need. It feels like we're just scratching the surface of what's possible. I think we're still kind of mapping what we used to do onto what this technology affords. And I think the camera feed is a really good example. There's going to be so much we can do as well. We've got LiDAR that's really good on those devices. What can we do to take someone's world into that shared space as well at the same time? Like there's so many things like this that we haven't really scratched the surface of. I'm excited about that, but I think, there's this base, there's level one everyone's got to get to first. But this is what it enables. It's this whole new paradigm of communication. And it is fundamentally how our minds understand the world. It is a basic, it's how we've evolved. We understand the world spatially. And that's what's so exciting about this. It's just like one-to-one with what we naturally do.
What also really, really would help with the collaboration is if the different hardware manufacturers could agree on some basics. We have a lot of use cases where people use different devices for multi-users and collaboration, and some have the origin based on the level of the device, the others 1 meter below, which ends up, even if you're in the same room, people standing there like, where are you? Oh, you're up there, or oh, you're down there. Let me pull up my floor, or let me raise you on my level, which in some cases it's hilarious, but you lose very much time, and after the third time it gets annoying.
I have a question. I have two more questions, just brief ones, and then I would love to open it up to the audience. The first question is, does the spatial audio in the Apple Vision Pro have any does it factor in at all? For example, like if you've got a turbine or you've got some sort of equipment, is there any spatial audio that you think is helpful or can be replicated? I mean, in the design phase, I just wonder, is that possible? And has that come up with your clients?
So for us, it hasn't come up yet, but as we're partnering with a lot of different ISVs, I'm pretty sure it will be very useful for them.
We're maybe still working on that. Yeah. And for you guys, Jay, at all?
Spatial audio is critical. Like when you've got multiple people collaborating and you might have avatars or heads floating around, having the audio feel like it's coming from where that head is really helps understanding. So we have it in Campfire, for example, and you'll have spatial audio in Vision Pro or Quest, or even on a desktop. It'll approximate it the best it can. But yeah, it really aids understanding and knowing where a voice is coming from.
That 100%. Got it. So I liked the JigSpace tagline where you said make things that are hard to explain, hard to forget. I was wondering if with the Apple Vision Pro, you've had clients in the past who have told you no, who have then come back to you and said yes, or yes now, because that's the way a sales cycle works. Sometimes you have people who will say, I'm not interested in this, but they might just not be interested in it right now. Has anything really changed? I know we've gotten encouragement from you, especially Jay today, to, this is the time. But does that translate to clients as well?
Yeah, it's very, very much so. I mean, it's like there's a lot of people here in this room that are here because Vision Pro has really spiked interest in it, which is awesome. And it's the same for what we see in the market. I think it is, the thing is, it's not like this is just a moment in time that suddenly has come upon us. We had this ramp that we've been going up since 2010, that we've been kind of heading towards this point. So a lot of the people that we've talked to over the last 7-8 years might have seen it early on, played around with it, seen something on the iPhone or the web, and then they've graduated up to higher level devices, so they go out and buy an iPad because they want to have the best viewing experience they can for their jigs, and now they're coming in and getting Vision Pro for the same thing. They always want to graduate to the best possible platform that they can experience their content on to communicate with their customers, their colleagues, etc. So it is a big lift to get to this point. It's like an education moment. There's far more people that are aware, but it is, I think it's the thing that draws people in, but in the end, they need to, I think you said it, they need to do the work that they have to do, and they don't really want to move that far from it. They've got a device with them that can do a lot of this stuff and gives them a small window into what is possible. And this is the nice lure at the end kind of thing, but there is a ramp that people can get on. And that's what we spend a lot of time thinking about, is how do we just make it as frictionless as possible to get to that point where you see the value of it and you can communicate that, so you don't have to go out and ask, can we go buy 10 of these headsets from the start.
I mean, I said the right time, and we talk about the inflection point. The inflection point's pass-through, hardware-wise. Getting pass-through on devices like Quest 3 and Vision Pro is everything. I don't think we can make the case Vision Pro and its numbers today is driving adoption. Go get it. There's hundreds of thousands of these. But it's definitely a twofold story, right? Like Meta and Quest 3 are just as important as Apple Vision Pro is to this also. Quest 3 happens to be the device that everybody can get at price performance at a certain level. And you're going to find a lot of those out there because people will buy these as consumers, maybe even for their kids, and they're taking them to work and they're putting 3D models in there and going, oh my God, I can do this. Vision Pro is extremely important because it's a halo experience and shows what the technology actually can do. And quite frankly, I think Apple coming in and spending what they have and showing the commitment to multiple devices also makes people more comfortable about what they're doing with Quest. Because they're like, my God, this is a category, this is going to stay here. And certainly we get that confidence. So I think, like I said, the inflection point is pass-through. And you guys will probably, if you haven't heard about that, you can learn more about why that's so important. But it effectively is changing VR to AR. Meta and Apple both important. And yeah, I think that's why it's the right time.
Definitely. So just Apple joining this market showed a lot of enterprise customers that's for real, that's serious, and it won't go away. We can't ignore it anymore. So it definitely changed a lot in the market for us too.
Awesome. So we can open up for questions. If people want to line up, we've got a few more minutes left. And I'd love to hear from the audience, especially if you guys are developing your own enterprise apps or you're working with clients. Yeah, please share your thoughts.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much. So I have a background in architecture. So you said like I'm in the architecture and also construction field, but I'm also very passionate about XR and specifically how to use VR and AR to empower the productivity. So actually so that's the reason why I went to another VR and AR company to try to see how to solve this problem. And when I was talking to some of my colleagues in the architecture industry, they mentioned like who are right now using the VR headsets, and they mentioned that okay, it's very useful as a presentation tool, but it's useless like between the team members, because they mentioned that like architecture, like if it's the early stage, the concept stage is very useful for some artistic exploration, also design, but in terms of the engineering stage, still like it's quite not that useful compared to just use the mouse, do some like very accurate engineering drawings. So I wonder, in terms of the presentation, do you think it's more related to the productivity side or is more related to the education side? Yeah.
I think the line to draw is, are you using it for content creation versus communicating the content to other people?
Yeah, like they were mentioning that they would mainly use that in front of clients to show the design. Yeah.
I think generally, because people will say, hey, are you trying to now replace CAD or replace other tools you're using for architecture? And I think that is not the intent. At least my belief is people are going to continue to use keyboard and mouse to actually do those activities. Where VR becomes useful is now sharing that content with others in a way that makes it feel like the physical thing. Right? That's what the headset brings us, is the ability for that 3D, for that digital thing to feel like the physical. Now we don't have to travel to that location, we don't have to build it, we don't have to ship it, we can see it now. I think the other thing I would say just about that use case in architecture, probably 99% of what we've seen in VR in the past has been single user experience. So as much as you've seen of things like, I don't know, there's any number, what's the meta one called? Workrooms. But that same kind of thing where you've got sort of avatars in a virtual space, very little of that is actually happening. Most of it is just one user who's got one headset on, and they're mirroring their view for other people who are watching it. And I'll tell you why. It's just because it's freaking hard. It's hard to get multiple people and multiple headsets all in the same place at the same time. But that's actually getting easier. So I think that's probably what will bring the most value, is just getting most people in there together. But I don't expect, and I would doubt you guys probably expect people are going to be doing like 3D modeling and stuff in this and replacing keyboards and mice.
It's a question of affordances on that. I think you're never going to be as accurate moving your hands or a controller as you can with a mouse and a keyboard. It's just not the same. So it kind of, yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, I guess I'll jump off that a little bit. I come from a different perspective, having done VR games for a while, XR games. For me, the power here is the interaction systems, the immersivity, the ability to start controlling things and moving things with your hands. And I've also been doing enterprise for a while. I worked on medical training simulators in VR, really where we're using those skills built in the entertainment discipline, taking those over, using those interaction systems, those novel interaction systems, and using them in a VR system. When I see the products you're making, a lot of it is about transmission of information. So, you were, to his point, you were splitting up content creation with sort of content communication, I guess. Two things. This is very broad, and I don't think there's a good answer. When are we going to start to see those novel interaction methods that are really engaged through hand motion start to be used in enterprise environments where productivity is more key? And I'm trying to think of things like, okay, so no one's going to want to pull a lever and have that's how they get their express cell sheet, Excel spreadsheet to work. Like, nothing is going to beat productivity like a mouse and a keyboard right now, but I'm starting to wonder, when are we going to start to see more novel interaction systems that really use your hands in a way that is going to be more productive? And then on the business side, this is much more tangible. When are we going to see that split between XR interaction, like XR creation, content creation, and XR sort of content distribution combined? When do we see your software start to be built right into the content creation software, so it's one pipeline? So 2 different questions. For me, they're sort of the same, but I come at it from a different place.
To answer the first one, that if you look back at all of, look back at mobile, mobile devices, and when apps started to really become a thing, a lot of the interaction was driven by games and like social media apps and things like that. It started to change the expectation around the apps and software that people used at work, because you didn't want to use clunky, heavy systems that were just a bunch of UI and Windows, etc. You wanted to have a good experience. You look at all of the cloud-based SaaS that the people use, it feels nice. And that's largely been influenced by games. In fact, technology is a history of people making games on things that weren't supposed to run games. So I think we're going to see that. You might have been able to guess that Fruit Ninja would be a massive hit on the iPhone. But look at all of the things that have come after that, all of the novel mechanics and interactions with just direct touch on a surface. I think we're at a stage now where we can't, we'll see some amazing stuff that'll just become so normal to people in 5 years that we probably can't predict now.
For the second, probably similar answer. The more and more people use tools to visualize their created content in 3D, in AR, in VR, the more and more we will create the need for the content creation software to integrate these tools directly. So the more it becomes normal, the more they will be pushed to integrate it directly.
Okay.
What, I was going to say
I
one more.
think-
Oh,
I think we should go to the next question. I'm
Okay.
sorry. If you could, yeah, come join them afterwards. Thanks.
Hi. First off, thanks for the presentations. They're really cool. I was curious. I know that, like, every company is different. Has different sizes of employees and different, things that they work on. Do you guys think of the different sizes and how to address collaboration for, like, are there differences, or do you see it as enterprises just kind of like everything under that umbrella? I'm just curious to know, like, for smaller shops, is there anything in particular you think would be different or specialized to help them out with your products?
Free. So we've got a free plan on Campfire so that anybody can get started regardless of the company size. But yeah, for us, it's not just about large enterprise. It's everybody that has this need to communicate and not need to travel so that they can have meetings that they ordinarily would have done with physical stuff in physical places.
Yeah, that's the answer.
Yep.
Awesome.
Is it just price, or is there like interactions or things that make sense for a large company, but maybe doesn't make sense for a smaller, vice versa?
I mean, generally what you get, like in SaaS land, when you start getting more expensive stuff, it's just manageability for bigger organizations. So, there are additional features for bigger companies, but they're not going to be ones that a smaller company would need, which is great. So, most of what you're going to need, or a lot of what you're going to need, at least to get started, would be in a free plan.
So from the streaming perspective, for example, with the smaller companies, we usually have everything on a cloud server, like an AWS server. But especially large enterprises, most of the times they have either their own cloud services or they have their complete own on-prem service. So we adapt depending on their needs, to host everything on their infrastructure so they can make it fitting for them.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. And we have our break starting. We have 10 minutes now, but we have time for one quick question, then we'll go to break.
What's happening in the intelligent object space? The object itself is something that I can move when I move something in a 3D space. For example, an intelligent cue ball, where I can move it and it's actually striking other balls on a pool table, for example, or any other examples of intelligent objects. Anything?
I'm not sure I fully understand. Do you mean like if I've got a virtual ball and it hits physical balls and moves them?
The object that I move on my screen, which is in 3D, is actually a physical object in real-time space. So that when I move it here, people in the room would actually see that object move. I'm not talking about setting silverware on a table, but as a place to start, what are places to start with that?
I don't know. It sounds really fun.
Sounds like, yeah.
Sounds like an
sounds
amazing
sounds like a
project.
good party trick.
Chew on that.
It's an IoT question.
That's where I was going to go.
It's
That's
an
where I was
IoT question, and I think that that's a good one for us to hang our hats on for today. We're going to do a 10-minute break. We'll be back at 5:35 for Nicole Lazaro. Thank you all so much, and thanks for this amazing talk. Thank you, everybody.